What's up, everybody? I'm Avatage, and welcome to a new episode of the HLTB podcast, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Paula.
Hello.
And this week we are going to be talking about the usual, what we've beaten. We've both beaten some games this week, which is good. We haven't retired anything, which is also good in my book. And we've been playing a few more things as well. But then we're going to head into our discussion topic of the week, which is kind of what we've called the next generation of gamers. And we're kind of thinking about generational differences between, say, when we were kids and when kids now come up playing games, and just things we've noticed that perhaps they may miss out on, or that are better these days, or differences. I'm quite an old man. Paula's much younger, but then we've got new kids coming up these days as well who have different experiences. So we're going to get stuck into that, and then we're going to finish it off with I'm going to try and guess a game and hopefully get myself out of the hole I'm in.
Hopefully.
With 2 points to Paula's 7. So, but first of all, Paula, why don't you take it away and tell us what you've beaten this last week?
I finally beaten something. I've been a drought here. So yeah, I finished Not Tonight, which, by the way, it was a very good game. I enjoyed it a lot. But I have a bone to pick here because I was supposed to be getting like a specific thing to recognize like a character in particular in the last chapter.
Right.
And it seems that one of the things that I was supposed to do, I didn't do, so I didn't get that piece of clothing. But I then went and looked at a guide because, like, what the hell happened here? And I actually did the things to get the other 2 pieces of clothing. It seems there was like a glitch or something for some people. I was supposed to be fixed, but I don't know what happened here. Anyway, at the end of the day, I did go back in time and pray to get like that specific thing to have a chance to at recognizing that one character. And I was lucky. I got the thing.
Cool.
There were a grand total of 2 characters like on that night with that with those pants. The first one was the one who did the thing. So I did the thing I was supposed to do and avoided like most of the damages, I think, which is nice. So another thing that I wasn't like I really didn't get at first is that you're supposed to side with the resistance.
Oh, okay.
So the first run, I ignored like they give you like this app with a bunch of requirements or like side quests that you have to do. Or I thought they were side quests, they were main quests. So without doing those, you aren't allowed to continue the story. You were also supposed to do a couple of things like in the meantime, so which I didn't do. So I ended up getting my ass deported. I really love the name of this achievement because it's called. Hold on, I'm looking for the thing. You absolute croissant. That's the name of the achievement. You absolute croissant. You got deported. But yeah, like, I had to replay like I'm gonna say like the last month before the final time skip of the game. Or like a couple of weeks, I don't know. Did all the resistance stuff. Didn't get my ass deported this time. And managed to survive the final ball. The one thing is that I was doing like side stuff for just fancies, and I didn't realize it has an actual impact on the ending you get.
Oh, okay.
Like if you were like quote unquote a good citizen or a bad citizen, you are judged at the end of the game. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Very spoiler alert. Big spoiler alert, but yeah. All the people that you either help or got in the way of speak about your deeds, and that is kind of like weighed in court to know if you're like a good or a bad citizen. So yeah, so for example, most of the game, there was like this kid called Shannon, and she first of all was a minor. Second of all, was from a banned country in most of the bars. So whenever she appeared, first of all, I was like, "No, you're a minor. Go play somewhere else." And then when she was finally like older, like old enough to enter, then her country was banned,
Cool.
and she got a very good fake ID. Like, but oh, the fake ID was with the country she was banned. Like, something happened, but the point is she couldn't enter. Oh yeah. Then she got a very good ID, but then it was require you, like, the government require you to have like a social status slash points of over 50 and earn a salary of at least 10K. So
Right.
she got the salary right, but her social points were abysmal, so I had to keep denying her the entry. And at the end, like when I was replaying the last part, since I had like a little thing, like Shannon came back a certain style or something like that in the side quest log. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let her enter like this last like 2 or 3 times, and that went against me in the court. Like Shannon was like, well, she's cool. She never denied me the right to party, and people were like, yeah, dock her points. She's useless. And I was like, God damn it, Shannon. You had to keep quiet about that. That was our secret. At the end of the long queue, I was like more or less in the middle. And holy crap, I'm so fucking glad I did most of the stuff like you told me to do. But also, why does the decoration if I had any bearing on my social on the court? Why? Like I got points subtracted because I had like a unicorn head like on my apartment.
Oh,
But
okay.
I got extra points because I didn't buy like the evil looking stuff there, and it was like, God damn it! I was so glad. Like I tried to be as English as possible in my decoration, or as a good citizen as possible in my decoration. Otherwise, I would be doomed here. But anyway, I got like the quote unquote good ending. I didn't get deported at the end of the trial, which is nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like the game was really, really fun. The one thing that I think Paper Please cannot does better is like the difficulty curve, because in this game, since you're getting like all kinds of jobs, the difficulty of the night for the night will depend on the particular job you're taking. Though,
Yeah.
if you take like the same job like many times in a row, that particular job gets like a proper difficulty curve. Like on the
Yeah.
first night, you either had like less requirements or overall like less shitty people. At the last night you're doing that job, holy crap! Every French citizen here wants to get in, even though their country's banned. So it's like, no, you can't enter. No, you can't enter. And the thing is since Papers, Please kind of like gives you money depending of the time of the amount of people you process, not necessarily the amount of people that pass.
Yeah.
This game only gives you money for the people that pass, because those are giving money to the path bar, whatever, which makes a lot of sense. But still, what am I gonna do if like 5 people in a row at some point have some problem either with their ID or with their social security stuff? I don't know. And it was like, okay, everything is fine. Oh, another thing, if you buy the coffee maker, please buy the coffee maker. Like, if you're playing this game, and you have to sip a cup of coffee like every time you have to go to work. It's not like a passive thing, but that makes things so much quicker. Like it almost feels like the normal speed at which the main character like even like just takes the ID from people feels sluggish in comparison when you have a good coffee in the morning.
I don't know if I did that when I first played it.
I don't know, you probably should in the next time you play it because it is a fucking godsend. But yeah, Not Tonight, very, very fun game. I'm so happy you recommended this to me after winning the last Guess the Game round.
Well, it sounds like it had a good kind of new take on the Papers, Please kind of formula.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
In its own little way. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, obviously, or just different, really. But yeah, that was the idea. So yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
The other thing that I was really happy about is when you level up, they give you like an upgrade. So having the guest list in alphabetical order is the best upgrade ever. That and the scan doesn't take like half an hour to go through, which is nice. Like I can literally just scan everyone without having to look like at that funky little square on their clothes. Which sometimes I just don't see, so they find me for that. But anyway, that's Not Tonight. I was really sad to see it go because I had a really good time with it. At the end of that day where I finished Not Tonight, I was staring at the ceiling listless without knowing what to do with my life anymore. Which is a very nice thing for a game to do. I mean, it is nice to have a game that does that to you, even though the feelings suck.
Yeah, that's what you got out of Brexit.
Yeah.
Or a fictional potential Brexit, I suppose. So
I guess.
Yeah. No, very cool, very cool.
I went back to my Rusty Lake shenanigans. I finished The White Door, which, by the way, it's been like a month and a half since I last even touched it. So I remember that I was like kind of trapped in a puzzle. And I went back and I had to look at that guide because I totally forgot like what had I already done on that particular day. So I had to like go to like, okay, usually you have that little list of things you have to like. You wake up, you eat breakfast, have your checkup, do memory training, etc., etc. Because you're kind of like at a mental hospital. So the particular day I was at the time was the first day where things start to go funky and didn't quite follow the thing, so that's why I was a little bit lost.
Nice.
But yeah, like just take a quick look at a walkthrough. Everything is fine. I got and that was the only time I looked at a walkthrough. And the thing I was stumped mainly because I didn't see a thing other character drop. So
right.
So I was like, but I check everywhere. Wait, there's a thing lying like right next to the door. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I need. So yeah, the White Door is very different to all other Rossilla games because it isn't quite the point and click mystery solving kind of thing we've grown to accustomed to and we love and stuff like that. So this game is top down. You see most of the game like in a black and white manner. But the puzzles are still like very rusty like you have to chase weird shit around the room sometimes.
I was going to say it's not like boring and makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. Especially
I need to get back to those.
Yeah, especially like after things take a turn, it doesn't make sense like at all. And it is colorless because of that. So yeah, I finished that one and then I went and replayed some Server Room. which was actually the first Rusty Lake game I played because it is free. And at the time, I was like really longing for a point and click game. I found that for free, and it was like, okay, let's give it a go. And that's when I fell into Rusty Lake Limbo
Mm-hmm.
for the foreseeable future. Um, this game is weird. I love it, but still weird because I'm not gonna say why or how, but you get like different perspectives over the same room. Like you know how
Okay.
in seasons you get like quote unquote time passing, and you have
Mm.
to like things on a prior season, so you have things on the actual
Yeah.
season. Here you have different perspectives, so sometimes you see things from the ceiling and upside down, and sometimes
Ah,
you crawl around the floor and see things that are closer to the floor. That's I'm able to say without spoiling it too much. I
cool.
do remember having like a lot of trouble with this one when I first played, but now the I think it's the Rusty Lake formula, but it's second nature to me after playing so many games. So I pretty much raised to it. So yeah, that's everything I finished. I do
Mm.
quite recommend you getting back into the Rusty Lake games because I'm almost at, like I have Underground Blossoms left, and then the one that's multiplayer. So I'm gonna need someone to play that with.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely need to get back onto that train. I'm not sure why I stopped playing them. It wasn't consciously. I just kind of got onto other things, I think, and got distracted. But
That
I'm
was
very
pretty
keen
much
to.
it.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen to finish them off. So I think I'll get onto them soon, and maybe I'll have something to talk about next week. So yeah. But I finished a couple of games this week. One that I started and finished all in the same week was
Nice.
McPixel 3 because it was on Game Pass, and I don't know, for some reason I just felt like playing McPixel because I did play the first game a long time ago, and it's just a stupid game really that that you just muck around with. Like it's one of those very, if anyone doesn't know, it's a very kind of memey game, but it's you play as a character called McPixel who you basically have to play through a series of levels which are all scenarios in which a bomb is going to go off.
Oh,
And so there are, for example, I think one of the first ones is you're on a train, like a passenger train in a city. And so you're standing there in one of the carts and there's like a bomb that's going to go off and there's a couple of people sitting around and there's, the regular kind of train environment. So you have to, by interacting with other people, and you've got a time limit ticking down the whole time, which isn't very long. It's usually a couple of minutes at most. And through interacting with different people and objects in the environment, you can hopefully try and quote unquote save the day and, defuse the bomb or at least save yourself. Sometimes, like, minor spoiler, in McPixel 3, one of the solutions for one of the levels is just to walk away, catch a bus, and leave the area so you don't explode, but everyone else still does. And that's kind of like you win. But the main point of the game is really finding all the different combinations of, they call them gags, but they're basically different ways to complete the level, so to speak. So, for example, I'm making this up, but for example, if you're on a train and there's a bomb or something and there's like a couple of passengers, one of the things that you could do probably is interact with each of the passengers. And usually McPixel will do something like kick them in the nuts or pee on them or something. And then that might resolve that gag. And then you then replay the same thing and you do something different and something else will happen. So it's basically an exploration of finding all the different combinations of things that you can do, as well as then how to save the day and defuse the bomb, so to speak. So it's a fun game. It's a silly game. It's just none of it necessarily makes sense logically. Like some of the solutions are very, very illogical, I suppose, or when you do things, the result may not be what you expect based on what you've done.
oh,
So, like, there's a one level where you're at a dock and you kind of, I think you can like pick up the bomb walk down to the end of the dock and throw it in the water, but a big fish kind of grabs it and jumps back out the water. So you can grab a sign and like smack the fish in the face, but then that makes it explode, so you explode as well. Or like there are other ones where you go through this whole series of rooms and stuff, and then you'll just fall through a trapdoor that's randomly there, and that ends your day kind of thing. But if you walk around the other way, or you go past the trapdoor and you go through a specific door or something, you might find a scene which has like an alien smoking a cigarette or something, and just weird shit. But it's a lot of fun because it is silly. It's each level or each kind of run, quote unquote, takes like only a couple of minutes, so it's really quick, just trying out different things. It's a bit of a puzzle game because you have to kind of remember what you have tried out and with what, so that you don't repeat yourself too much. It can be a bit frustrating sometimes because like there was this one, it tells you for each level kind of how many things there are to unlock as well. So if there's like 10 gags to find, it'll tell you that there's 10 gags to find. And as you find them, it'll tick them off, but you don't know what they are until they do tick them off. And so you know if there's like missing stuff that you haven't found yet. And there was one level which was like a quiz show level, which was basically a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire kind of quiz show. But the question that you get asked is like completely nonsensical and there's no way you're going to know what the answer is. But it's all, the difference of what happens is all based on what number you dial when you phone a friend. So you can dial like 911 and you get put through to the police, and you can dial 420 and you get put through to like some Rastafarian dude on the beach. And there's just a whole lot of gags like that. But there was one last one to unlock, which I was really trying to get, that was just a random chance that someone would appear in the audience and then you click on them and then that completes the scene. But every time I tried doing it, the dude wouldn't show up who I was waiting to show up, and I ended up looking it up to see how to do it because I didn't, it wasn't working for me. And all I could find online was that, you just have to keep redoing it until it randomly shows up. So it could be quicker, it could take a long time, but it's, thankfully there was only like one or two things like that where it was kind of RNG based. The rest was all very prescriptive and you could control what's happening all the time. So yeah, the funny gag as well is that there's no McPixel 2. So there's McPixel and then there's McPixel 3. And there's even a line at the beginning of McPixel 3 saying, "Where's McPixel 2?" and I won't spoil anything, but I will say that it is kind of part of the loose story of the game. So that's something to look forward to if you're into McPixel. But yeah, I'd say definitely try it out if you like that kind of thing, because it's a good, silly kind of game. It only took, I think it was like a few hours I spent on it, maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember. But yeah, good fun, bit of a laugh. Really a good quick one to kind of pick up and put down really quickly. Like you can play it for 10 minutes, complete a few things, and then just come back later. So yeah, good times. The other game I finished was part of the Capcom Arcade Stadium collection, which I started last week, which was 1943, The Battle of Midway, which I mentioned was pretty much the only game I was playing in the collection last week anyway, and has been the only one I've played since. And it's a classic vertical shooter that I've played before, and I got through all 16 levels and beat the final boss, and there we go, finished it kind of thing. And now I'm going to go on to the next one in the collection. So I don't really have much to say because this game is from like the 80s or early 90s. It's been out a long time. It's a vertical shooter. It's very much what you'd expect. You're in a plane and you're shooting enemy planes and ships and things. There's power-ups. That's about it. And yeah, it's a good time though if you like those sorts of games, and it's kind of a bit of a nostalgia trip for me because I played a lot of those games back in the day. I was mad about another one called Raptor called The Shadows. Like I think that was one of the first games that I played like to death. Like just played and played and played and played and played. I think I was in primary school when that came out. But yeah, that was a long time ago. Anyway, 1943, The Battle of Midway is a good one. There's also, I think I mentioned last week as well, but in Capcom Arcade Stadium, there's like 5 different versions of this game because they released a lot of different ones as well. And there's different years on each one. There's like 1942, there's 1944, there's 1945, blah, blah, blah. So I'll probably end up going through a few more of them as well. But I think I'll just kind of make my way through the arcade collection because, yeah, it kind of shakes it up between like I was saying, like Street Fighter or like Final Fight or, yeah, beat 'em ups and shooters, and I think the next one I'm up to, which is only the second one in the collection, is like a Contra kind of game where it's a 2D platformy shooty kind of game. But yeah, I'll have to talk about that next time. But that's all I've beaten is those two. Yeah. Haven't retired anything either. And neither's Paul, you haven't retired anything at all?
I haven't retired anything either, which I'll take as a good thing.
Yeah. I kind of see it as a win, even though I don't mind retiring stuff, but it's kind of nice when you don't, because it means you're enjoying what you're doing or, still playing what you're playing. So why don't you tell us, regale us with what you have been playing this week, Pokepaw?
Oh, I will. I'll start with Terraria. I have like half of the things noted down, and the other half are just like in my Steam library, so bear with me.
I've seen achievements popping up from you for Terraria for things you've been beating and bosses you've been killing.
Wait, you can see the achievements I get?
Yeah, on Steam.
Oh.
Because we're friends on Steam.
True. Okay, so okay, last time we talked about Terraria, I think we're just defeating the queen bee, so we got the trophy single region. Well, we started up the gaming session with going against the Reign of Cthulhu. So we got like our equipment improved a little bit, and then we went and dig through like this little dungeon on the what's the name of it? On the corruption part, the red corruption part, and we made up some platforms, some ropes in case we fell off the platforms, and we just summoned the Reign of Cthulhu. So in the case of the Reign of Cthulhu, to summon it, you have to go and break like these hard things that are like in corruption underground. And we thought we could only like use like bombs. Yeah, just bombs to break them. But then I realized you can, since it counts like it being like in the wall, you can just break them with a hammer, which is used to like take blocks out of the like the wall, like the back wall. So we went with that and ended up defeating the Reign of Cthulhu after after a very intense fight. I mean, got a lot of materials out of it. Shortly after that, a meteor landed, so we went and tried to get every single little block out of there and make some new armor. So my boyfriend at that time was rocking like the space armor with the space gun, and the thing is that if you have the full set of the space armor, and if you use the space gun, you don't use up mana. So the space gun uses mana, while the regular guns use bullets. And yeah, he very much had infinite mana thing. We also found an NPC that sold like some weird crystal thing and a vase, and we had to like put this vase in a flat surface, and a very wide flat surface at that. Because if you put a crystal on it, you start calling on a horde of various monsters. I think most of them are goblins, but and you have to try to get as far as possible in this thing. So wave after wave of enemies, and we ended up dying because we weren't prepared for this. Let's be honest. Besides, we didn't like realize that the guy also sold or like exchange for a specific coin, like not like the regular currency of the game, but for a specific kind of credit. He could exchange us like staves that kind of like summons a sentry guard or a sentry tower And that would have made like the tower defense part of the thing like so much easier, because it wouldn't be like just the two of us trying to go through the hordes of enemies. But yeah, we haven't tried that ever since, but we still have a lot of crystals to try to summon a horde. Well, after that, we went like each on their own way. I think my boyfriend was on the jungle, still trying to look for a specific set of or not armor, but an accessory, because we realized that we could combine accessories in this particular crafting table, so we could have like the power of 2 accessories in just one slot, and that was too good to pass. So he went like a madman into the jungle and tried to get that accessory. In the meantime, I don't know what came down to me, but I realized we had like many of those eye things we used to summon the Eye of Cthulhu. So I summoned it and killed it by myself 3 times. So I got
Wow.
a lot of gold and a lot of materials out of it. So I was pretty pleased with myself, because it was like, hey, remember how much trouble this bastard gave us? In the meantime, my boyfriend found another queen bee, which so I got the queen bee, sorry, the bee's knees, which is the one of the best bows in the game, or at the very least, at that point in time, it was the best bow in the game. I still haven't found like a replacement for it, so it's pretty good.
Nice.
And it not only it has like a very high like it does a lot of damage per arrow, but also it summons, when it crashes with something, summons like a little group of bees, and the bees do like some little more damage to whatever enemies in the vicinity. So if you just spam that thing, you can like pretty much like kill whatever you find. But the adventure doesn't end here. And then we went back to the underground to explore, and I was looking for sapphire, because I really wanted to make like blue stained glass, and you need sapphire for that for some strange reason. At that point, I haven't found any sapphire. Like I found literally like every other ore that was available to me at the time, but no sapphire.
Nice.
At some point, we said, "Fuck it, we are going to the dungeon," and like we are getting entrance to the dungeon. So we defeated the skeleton thing that was there, and got access to the dungeon. And holy crap, this place is a nightmare. Like everything wants to kill you. There are so many traps, and also there's like hordes and hordes of enemies that are trying to kill you, and mimics. Like suddenly there was like a chest, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna open that chest, and no, the chest tried to eat me.
Awesome.
Most of the chests, I think all of the chests there needed like a key, so we had to kill things until they drop a key to get to open the chest and get stuff. I got some very amazing equipment there. So I got like a lance thing that did a lot of damage, but I also got kind of like this morning star looking thing that had like red fire. The blue fire one was the weaker one, and it had like 71 base damage, and everything died in contact, and it was awesome.
Nice.
We also got the achievement Dungeon Haste, because we managed to find keys to open those chests, and if you open a chest of the dungeon, you get the achievement. And then let me go to my Steam page, because holy crap, my notes stop there, but the adventure doesn't stop. We were we decided to go down into the underworld, like pretty much to hell, and we were very careful about how we went through things because at the time we had like better equipment. We have like an anti-knockback item,
Cool.
so we didn't get like knockback from creatures and didn't get the push into the lava pools.
Mm.
Sometimes we did fall to lava, but it was due to our own stupidity rather than something pushing us into the lava. Uh, okay, so I'm trying to get here. Okay, okay. And I'm trying to see my achievements because I need to see like where. Oh, apparently I also like before going like to the underground, like we also got an achievement called "There are some who call him dot dot dot." It says "Kill
Tim?
Tim," like
I was going to say, is it Tim? Because that's a Monty Python thing.
yeah, it is Tim. Apparently, like one of the enemies in the dungeon was called Tim. I just killed him, so I got the achievement, and it was like okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so we went back into the lava, into the lava infested underground, and tried to like my boyfriend at some point was in the underground, so he got a lot of keys. But by the way, you only need one to open like all the underworld, sorry, chests. So we went down there and were very careful with what we did because we didn't want to summon the ball of flesh by accident. So we started like building a bridge. We first went to the right, looted everything we could in the right. We also found some trees growing in the underworld, so I had some more materials to go full home deco on the base. And then it was like, hey, we got everything on the right, let's go to the left. I remember there being like a lot of stuff on the left. So we went left. We went west. And we were like probably like halfway through our exploration when suddenly we got careless. We got very careless. And these flying demons came to attack us. We fent off like many times before, but this one dropped a voodoo doll over a tiny pool of lava.
Awesome.
So we defeated the wall of flesh.
Oh, you won. Cool.
We actually won this time. So at first it was like, okay, we haven't like done preparation for hard mode because killing the wall of flesh gives you the hard mode of the game and has like new enemies and new stuff.
Oh, okay.
But we realized we were doing like so much damage to the wall of flesh and nothing like pretty much could touch us from the regular enemies, and it was like, okay, let's defeat it. What's the worst that could happen? So yeah, we defeated it. We got hard mode, and yesterday we were playing on hard mode. And the first thing we went to do was try to destroy some altars because we would get like a new ores to make stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
Which, on hindsight, wasn't the brightest idea at the time, mainly because some more urgent things were happening out of our line of sight in that moment. But yeah, we
Right.
smashed some altars. We got a palladium, meteorite, and something else. I don't remember. I also got the achievement extra shiny because I mined a powerful ore that has newly been placed upon your world. So okay, while everything, uh, all that was happening, we didn't realize that we have a new biome that was kind of like corruption, but with rainbows. That was slowly, very quickly, crawling into our base, or like in its way to our base. It turns out we very much have to make like the firewall equivalent of whatever rainbow stuff was going on there. So now we're trying like to isolate this plot of land that is our base from both the red corruption, which isn't as bad in a sense because you can still like purify it with things you get from the green hair girl. I don't know if she's a dryad or whatever. But you cannot purify the rainbow land. And it pretty much like taints everything it touches. So now we're pretty much going into damage control because it just got like way too close to the base. So we very much dug a hole on the ground and put like non-corruptible materials on both sides, so we didn't get the corruption. And then realized the corruption was still going on underground, so we are pretty much isolating like this little island called home.
Nice.
So yeah. Also, unicorns are tough shit. Like they will kill you if you're not paying attention. So yeah, that's Terraria. A lot has happened. We have had like many adventures here.
And you don't want to you don't want to have a rainbow base?
We don't want to have a rainbow base. Like all the NPCs are gonna leave. Which, by the way,
Okay.
I was expanding the base. So now we have like obsidian rooms with like hell's things we got from hell. Because why would you craft the stuff from hell if you can just steal the stuff from hell?
Right on. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been playing Home Depot like the last couple of hours before I was swiftly called to help stop the corruption, but whatever. Okay, enough Terraria. This is not everything I've been playing. So I'm still playing Nor 9. I'm still on Kakeru's route. So I'm playing as Koharu, as I stated previously. And she has no idea how to interact with people in general. Her social awareness is close to zero at the beginning of the route, but she has been learning a lot. So overall, like the first, I guess, 3 chapters of the route are pretty chill. Like the worst that happens is like oh no, he got sick. Oh no, the main character is gonna take care of him and get attached. How terrible! um, but the thing is that Kageru has like this very special earring that is kind of like a memento for his father, and he lost it.
Right.
So chapter 4 is pretty much there trying to find the earring, while Kakeru is pretty much deep in despair because without that earring he kind of feels like he's no one, because like he it's like a good luck charm, so without it it's like everything's shit. Then we have which is probably like my most favorite, but also like the most repetitive part of the game. So one of the people on the ship, Itsuki, has the power to give you dreams, or like make you dream specific stuff, or like give you a setting for a dream, more or less. So at some point of the game, like the 3 girls are like just kind of gloomy, like they have problems like with their assigned partner, and they're not sure what to do next. So Itsuki comes here and it's like, hey, like why are you like so sad? So yeah, I'm here to help. Okay, pick one of these lines, we follow the line, and you'll know the results of this little experiment later today, quote unquote tonight. So the 3 girls are like sleeping, and then they have like this dream like among all 3 of them, and each of them have like a role on a fairy tale. Like Koharu is dressed up as Snow White, Mikoto is dressed up as Cinderella, and Nanami is dressed like Little Red Riding Hood.
Cool.
But only Koharu knows that they're actually kind of like characters in a tale. So she has to go and explain to the other two what they're supposed to do. Which they completely misconstrued. Like, Mikura was like, okay, I have to go look for the glass slipper then. And Nanami, who seems to be like from a ninja family, she's like, okay, the wolf is the enemy. He won't escape.
Okay.
As you do. So each of the characters of the ship has been given like a role to play, and pretty much like Itsuki says, like, hey, you'll find your prince. You go find your prince and you'll be okay. You get out of this dream because I only set things up, so I have no control over him over this thing. As you do.
Mm.
So Kakeru is kind of like the poison apple. I thought he was going to be the witch, even though I already played this. I kind of forgot he was a poison apple. But anyway, so okay, so pretty much like Koharu finds her prince. I don't know what happened with the other two, but the dream ends finally. Also, like Koharu was like, "What a weird dream!" So I'm gonna go take a breather outside. And she finds like one of the other characters on the ship and realizes that he's the one that has the earring that Kakeru holds dear to him. So she she pretty much takes it away from him using her fire powers to avoid him going after her. So she is a trembling mess at this point because she's been hiding the fact that she has fire powers from the ship because there's a traitor, and they say, hey, the traitor probably has like an offensive power. And fire is an offensive power. So yeah, she doesn't want to go there. Things seem kind of normal until they don't, because at some point, like Hakakiru gets his earring back. There's kind of like a convention over there, but also, people like go out of the ship like in their last supply stop.
Right.
And Koharu is left alone in the ship. And then she realizes she's not alone. Ron is there. And suddenly these kind of like robot things jump into the ship, like, and try to take her away. So she burns them to a crisp and things go wrong. So again, this was supposed to be the Taisha. What the hell is going on here? Why are there robots? Why is someone trying to abduct or kill the spares? How did I get that that information? So yeah. I think that was like more or less where I left it at.
Mm-hmm.
Things were very chill until there weren't anymore. But anyway, that's another 9 bar commons. I was still just like in the first route. And I have like two kind of like I'm playing this, but not like in the traditional way kind of thing. Games,
Right.
because it seems that, well, I'm going to a illustration fair this weekend with a friend. And she
Ooh.
was like, hey, after the illustration fair, we may go to this Pokemon event because my brother is participating in the Pokemon Go tournament.
Oh, cool.
And then I was like, hey, if there's a Pokemon Go tournament, is there a VCG tournament like the video game tournament? And it turns out there is. So I'm trying to prepare a team for that in case I manage to get in before the, like, I don't want to pay for my place in the competition without having a team first. So I'm trying to build a team and hope for the best.
Awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. So I went through Pokemon Home, got my stuff, like the all the Pokemon that I used in competition before. From Pokemon Home to Pokemon Scarlet, most of them are from Pokemon X and Y, if I remember correctly, because
Mm-hmm.
that was the era where I really got into competitive Pokemon. So I'm now going through Pokemon Showdown, and I'm trying like to use the Pokemon that are already trained as a base for the team, because I don't want to read and train a full team of 6. That is too time consuming.
Right.
Um. So yeah. I the meta is kind of weird though because they're like in a regulation set F, and even though not every Pokemon is allowed in the competition, there's a good bunch of like mythical and legendary Pokemon that kind of like throws the balance off a little bit. Like it was more fun in my opinion when you only have like the Pokemon you were able to get in the game being like competitively viable or like not banned like the permitted ones.
Yeah.
Because you were able like to make pretty much every Pokemon shine. Not now. So yeah, I've been using my time trying to get like at the very least a team that's not gonna get swept in the first round for the Pokemon thing. And next week we'll see if I actually got to participate or if everything
Yeah.
was in main and I'm just doing like online battles. Whatever. Enough from me because holy crap, that was a lot.
Yeah. Well, that sounds
What
like
have
fun.
you been playing?
I don't have heaps to talk about, which is probably a good thing. But as in, you don't have to listen to me for too long. But I've continued playing a few games that I was playing before and just kind of progressed a little on them. So I kept playing Red Dead Redemption, which is a replay that I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who knows the story, I'm up to the bit where I'm back home with my family, basically. And that's very close to the end of the game. So
Oh.
minor spoiler there, but I know how it ends anyway because I played it before. I really enjoy the end, actually. I think it's a really well-written ending in this game, like the actual ending for people who know what that means. But I've been having a lot of fun. I've kind of forgot how much fun I have just like completing challenges and stuff, like roaming around, hunting certain animals that you've got to hunt to, level up your hunting skills and stuff. Or like there's some challenges like there's a whole series of tomahawk challenges for using tomahawks. So you can attack a bandit hideout and only kill bad guys with tomahawks, and that levels you up in your tomahawk skills.
Oh.
So doing stuff like that I've been having a lot of fun with, where yeah, it can be frustrating at times because you get killed quite easily sometimes and have to kind of ride your way back from the other side of the map. But it's good fun to try and do certain things. Like there's also a sharpshooter challenge where you had to, I think it was disarm 6 enemies without changing weapons or reloading the weapon you're using. So to do that, you basically shoot the guns out of the hands of enemies. So that can be hard anyway because you need to find 6 enemies at a time that you can disarm. And then you've got to try and disarm them before you run out of bullets in your gun before you have to reload it, kind of thing. So I kind of cheesed it a little because I've done it before, but there's like parts of the map where first of all, you get a pistol that's got like a high capacity, so it's got like 15 bullets in it anyway. So that's cool because you can definitely get 6 successful shots out of that probably. But there's a part in Mexico where you can basically climb up into like an attic, up a ladder, and you basically shoot someone so that you've got a wanted level, and you get the cops basically climbing up this ladder to come into the attic, and every time one climbs up, you go into like slow-mo Deadeye mode, and you shoot the gun out of his hand and then shoot him in the head, and then wait for the next guy to come up, go into slow-mo, shoot him in his gun out of his hand, and then shoot him in the head, and just continue, rinse and repeat until you've achieved the challenge. So, but even then, it took me like 3 or 4 attempts to actually successfully do it. So I've been doing a lot of that sort of stuff, which is, not necessary, but kind of fun, I think. And I could just quickly finish off the story, which I'll probably do soon anyway. But I'm kind of thinking I might try and 100% everything and see how I go. So there's other things as well. There's like outfits to unlock, and to do that you have to do certain things like defeat certain enemies and succeed in certain conditions. So like to unlock I think it's the hunter's outfit. So while you're wearing the like hunter's outfit, when you hunt, you get twice as many resources from animals that you kill and hunt. But to gain it, you have to do stuff like kill a whole bunch of legendary animals and there's
Oh,
this animal called Gordo the boar, who's a big
okay.
pig. And Gordo's a pain in the ass because I had to kill Gordo about 3 or 4 times because directly after Gordo, there's a legendary wolf that you need to kill. But the way the game works, like I'd kill Gordo and then I'd ride over to where the wolf is. But there's a whole lot of bandits and enemies and stuff around there as well. So they'd end up killing me. And then my save would load before I've killed Gordo. So I'd go back over and I'd kill Gordo the pig again quite easily because, you know, a few shots with a shotgun and he's down. And then I'd ride over and try and kill the wolf and get killed. And then reload and have to go, better go kill Gordo again. And so it was kind of funny, but kind of fun as well. So I've been doing that sort of stuff with Red Dead. I've been kind of half playing through the story, half playing through all those extra things. And because I know I'm like basically at the end of the game now, I'm just kind of, you know, cruising around doing stuff that I probably don't need to be doing, but it's just kind of fun to do and be a cowboy.
Is there
So,
like, since you have hunting and the legendary animals and stuff like that, is there that system like in place where you have to shoot at them in a particular way so you don't get like the hide or the skin of it like damage, and you use that skin to make clothes?
not in this one, but in Red Dead 2, how you kill it, I think, changes the quality
Yeah.
of the skins you get and that sort of thing. Whereas this one, the only difference is if you're shooting a small animal like a beaver or a rabbit or something, and you use too powerful a gun, it'll just kind of destroy the whole thing. So
Yeah.
you can't get anything from it. Other than that, there's no difference though if you shoot it 50 times or 1 time kind of thing.
Okay. I was asking because since my boyfriend is playing Red Dead 2,
Yes.
he was ranting about having to kill animals in a very specific manners because he needed. First of all, he has to scout for an animal with a very nice skin,
Yep.
and then he has to kill it. But with like it just has to be like either a headshot or like something that doesn't damage the skin of the animal, and then he gets a perfect skin for him to do stuff with. But
I think as well,
yeah.
depending on what you're trying to do, like you can't even just shoot it in the head because sometimes you want like a pristine head is the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember Red Dead 2 being much more involved than just the first one. So
Yeah, so one funny thing that he was talking about earlier is that he needed like wolf, like a regular wolf and a regular cougar, a perfect skin, which is kind of hard because those are not gonna just wait for you to try to kill them. They're gonna try to kill you
yeah.
first. But then
Yeah.
he realized that isn't like the most difficult skin to get. That it is actually the ox, because
Right.
that one is a domestic animal.
Yeah, so someone's going to get annoyed if you shoot
Yep. So you first of all, each farm only has like one,
it.
and he has to scout for the perfect one,
Yeah.
and then he has to kill it, which is like the easy part of it. He just punches it in, like in the chest, and it kind of dies. The hard part is not to get noticed after uh
Yeah.
you have the skin of the hog. So the funny thing is that he punched the hog, and while he was skinning it, 3 people saw him. So he killed the first 2, and the third one was escaping. So he killed the third one like a little farther away, and the other 2 people saw him.
Yep.
And then he has to silence those witnesses. At the end of that adventure, he ended up pretty much massacring, like killing like half of the little village.
Yeah.
So he has a bounty on his head now, all
Sounds about right
because
for
of
Red Dead
perfect.
2. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so like in Red Dead 1 the bounty system isn't as it developed as that either, so it's not as difficult to avoid, I would say. Because like in Red Dead 2 I remember it's real easy to get a a bounty and be stuffed just by doing the wrong thing in the wrong place. But it's a lot of fun though, like having to sort all that out, and you've got to decide: am I going to be like a good person, or am I going to chase down all these witnesses and murder them?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, he still got investigated.
Yeah,
He could, and he killed like half of the village, and he says it was
nice,
worth it.
awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the difficulty, unfortunately, I guess, the difficulty in Red Dead 1 that I've found is more the challenges are just difficult. Like there are challenges where you have to kill cougars with your knife instead of shooting them, but they kill you in like one shot if they get to attack you, and they're very aggressive, and chances are by the time you've seen them, they're about to jump on you anyway. So it's kind of figuring out how to shoot them without killing them, and then do the final blow with your knife. And the same thing with like bears. There's a lot of bears as well around certain areas, and one of the challenges is to kill them with a knife. But I figured out that I could shoot one in the head with a certain gun without killing it, and then just like knife it, and that would finish it off. But it's funny because also I think Red Dead 1 suffers a bit from the RNG as well, because sometimes it gets very gamey when you're out hunting, because you might go to a certain area where there's meant to be certain animals like bears that will hunt you down. And sometimes you go there and you don't see any bears at all, and you search and search and you put down bait to try and lure them in, and none of them ever show up. Other times you're just cruising through there, not even hunting, and every 5 seconds there's a bear on you attacking you. And there were times where I just killed bear after bear after bear, and when you skin an animal, it leaves the carcass on the ground. And
that attracts more animals.
I don't know if it does that, but at one point I was standing there and I had like 12 bear carcasses around me, because bears just kept spawning and coming at me. And every time I shot it, and I skinned it because they're worth a lot of money, and then kind of by the time I was finished skinning, another bear would show up and I'd shoot that one and then skin that one, and then 2 more bears would show up, so I'd shoot them both and then like skin them, and it just like kept going to the point there's an achievement for killing 18 bears, I think, or a trophy rather, and I got it just from standing in one place and getting attacked by bears the whole time, and I ended up killing like 20 bears or something within the space of half an hour, and yeah, it was ridiculous. So I think they ironed out those sorts of things in Red Dead 2, where it's not so much as random, and also as gamey in that sense.
Yeah.
like you could tell that wherever I was, or whatever time of day, or just whatever I was doing, obviously it was just triggering the RNG to keep spawning bears. And so I just kept getting more and more bears to kill. And as much as that's cool because I made a lot of money, it's very gamey and unrealistic and just weird. So.
I just remember, what was the game where if they patch it, so if you kill a lot of cows, it spawns like a miniature or something?
That was Diablo, I think, wasn't it? Like Diablo 3, maybe?
Oh,
Witcher.
3.
It is The Witcher 3, yeah.
Yeah,
if you kill heaps of cows, the cow demon kind of comes after you or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember like which game it was, but I was I let's be thankful that Red Dead 1 didn't have like a bear deity that protected the bears or something, because otherwise you'd be a dead man. But hey, RNG is kind of bless your wallet in that game.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I ended up with like $10,000 or something, which will basically buy you everything in the game.
Yeah.
So it was really good. I spent it all on poker. But anyway, that's another story. But there is like cool stuff. Like the one thing I do like in, I think they do it in Red Dead 2 as well, but in Red Dead Redemption, there's a finite number of buffalo on the map. And one of the trophies you get is for hunting basically all the buffalo and killing the very last buffalo, which is kind of a bit sad. But if you do hunt and kill all the buffalo, they will eventually run out and die off, which is kind of real to life.
Yeah.
Because obviously buffalo in America did get overhunted and die out. The wild buffaloes anyway. So yeah, it's kind of bittersweet in that sense, but I haven't done that yet, but I will because I want the trophy. But anyway, so yeah, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption. I'll probably finish it soon, but I'm very, very close to the end. I'm just kind of doing all those kind of random things of hunting stuff and, finding treasures and doing all that kind of thing. But I kept playing Lost Horizon as well, which is the point and click where it's almost like an Indiana Jones adventure. And the chapter that I played through, basically I infiltrated a Nazi camp and fell down in it got to a point where I was switching between two characters because one of my characters had fallen down a crevasse into a cave and was stuck. Some other character was like sneaking around finding tools and things and like literally just throwing them into the cave for the other person to pick up and try and find a way out. And it's kind of cool. I'm still enjoying it. It's still pretty much this one. I mean, I don't have much to say about this one, but it's pretty much the same as what I said last week, where it's an old school point and click. It's fairly logical and not too difficult to kind of get through, but the story's fun and it's kind of paced well enough at the moment, because there was a series that I was trying to think of last time, which of 3 point and click games, like a trilogy, which is the Runaway trilogy of point and click games. And that's their own kind of story, but boy, they've dated something chronic and they're really, really slow and the dialogue is really clunky and just, they're pretty bad by today's standards. Whereas this one, Lost Horizon, where there's also, I think, 3 games in this series, but this one seems much tighter and better written, for want of a better word. But yeah, still enjoying that. But yeah, haven't really plowed through too much of it yet. And I've eventually played Baldur's Gate 3 again with my friends and had a good time basically screwing everyone over because it's that kind of game. And minor spoilers, there's a character who we met who's basically a zombie lord. And to kill a zombie lord, you have to go find where his organs are being preserved. And if you just kill him without killing his organs, he'll come back. So
like the Horcrux on Harry Potter.
Pretty much, yeah. So we killed him, but then we went, maybe we should go find his organs and kill them and like destroy them. So we went looking and we went into this tiny little room underground and I found a jar which had like his liver in it or something. I'm like, cool, I can destroy that. And because I'm a fighter, so I just smacked it with my big halberd that I use and it exploded and the whole room we were in turned into fire and everyone either died or almost died.
Oh.
And it was a big mess. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what? I just, destroying the liver. And yeah, so I'm having fun with that.
Liver fights back.
Yeah. And I'm kind of I think I've spoken plenty about the co-op experience of Baldur's Gate 3 and how kind of challenging it can be with having 3 people kind of all making decisions at the same time and either communicating things or not communicating things, or, you kind of have to get into the rhythm and just accept the fact that you're playing it in co-op and you're not going to do everything you want to do that you would do in a single player game. But I think I'm getting more and more into that vibe the more I play it, because the less I kind of care as we go through and the more I'm just like agent of chaos. And we go in somewhere and it's like, hey, this guy looks like they could be hostile, and I'm like, cool, and I just start attacking them. I'm like, yeah, because I'm max level and I'm really strong, and like no one ever manages to hit me because I'm like a really high level fighter, and my armor class is like, I think it's up to like 25 or something.
Yeah.
So no one can ever really hit me except for like big boss characters. So I'm just like, yeah, cool, I'll go in and fight stuff and hit them and do whatever. I don't really care. But yeah. So I'm kind of having fun with that, just playing it really loose and not really taking it too seriously, and just seeing what happens and just whacking stuff with my big weapon. So yeah, that's all I've been playing. Like I said, not really have much to say about it because they're all stuff that I'm kind of continuing with, not I haven't finished or I haven't just started or anything. I'm just kind of working my way through. So yeah, but they're all good and they're all keeping me interested, which is good.
It's always nice.
So let us have a chat and be all back in my day for a while as we discuss our topic of the week, which is the new generation of gamers and how they may differ from old generation of gamers. And it's basically an excuse for us to kind of go, when I was back in my day, when I was young, this is what we did and it was great. And this is what we didn't do and it was shit. And these days, it's better or worse or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But just one random thing that to start us off that we were talking about before we were recording was I was talking about, I used to play a lot of multiplayer games like Counter-Strike and Team Fortress, Quake, Tribes, those sorts of games. But this was in the 90s and it was on dial-up. So, your mileage may vary depending on your dial-up connection. But it also, there was no such thing as voice chat, which I always think is a quite surprising thing these days, to me anyway, because these days when you jump into a multiplayer game, it's almost expected to have voice chat enabled. Like people are talking away even if you don't want them to. And whereas back in the 90s, dear listeners, for those who didn't game in the 90s, you'd be playing a first-person shooter like Quake or Counter-Strike, and you'd use text chat the whole time to coordinate with your team. And I still remember like pressing T and Y to start team chat or all chat. And so you could say something to the entire lobby, like your team and the other team, or you could say stuff just to your team, or you could, direct message other players. And for some reason, it was kind of like a skill that we had where you could still play a first-person shooter quickly and accurately while also typing chat messages to your teammates to kind of coordinate and get stuff done. And I'm not saying that I'm sad that that's gone, because I think voice chat's a lot more fun.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's definitely a difference that I've noticed, like, especially in games where perhaps voice chat isn't supported or people do try and still use text chat. I don't think people are as adept at typing while playing, because it seems like people really stop, type something, and then keep playing.
Yeah, like,
which is fine.
For example, like I used to play a lot of Warcraft 3 in the day when it was like just released and popular, and I had to learn like the short names or like shortcuts or like the I guess like the special words we use to convey like in a couple of letters like a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
It was almost like an art of, or like its own language. Like you had to learn the own language of the game to be able to play the game with other people. And also, we were talking about this too before recording, but even when we do have like regular chat in some games like League of Legends, people of our generations were kind of nicer about everything.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder why that is. And for anyone listening, if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that also blows my mind about voice chat these days. Like if I jump in a game and there's just people talking, 9 times out of 10, someone's saying some racial slurs or, calling everyone, I don't know, just basically calling them names and that sort of thing, and being generally unpleasant. Or there's the person who's got their music blaring and it's being picked up on their mic and just feeding out to everyone constantly.
True. So I think we have like two distinct situations here. Like first of all, like the kind of game, like I used to play like a lot of, well, mainly RTS games. So people were very invested on trying to strategize and maximize their resources.
Yes.
But for example, if you play League of Legends, people have a cooldown when they die. So they have nothing to do for a little bit.
Yeah.
So they call you erase your slurs and send you back to the kitchen if you're a woman. Which is not nice.
No, not at all. And I wonder if it's also because it's like a free game, whereas when I was playing like Team Fortress and stuff, which is now called Team Fortress Classic, I suppose, you paid for those games and you had to schedule time because you were using dial-up, so it meant your telephone wouldn't be usable during the time that you were playing. And, you'd probably schedule some time with your friends as well to play with them. So I feel like you're much more invested than, say, just loading up some free game that, I'll play this for 20 minutes and talk some shit and then leave kind of thing.
True.
By the way, like kids, like most kids won't know what. Well, I guess in Latin America, yes, because it's still a thing. But a lot of people won't know what a shitty internet connection is. Like, holy crap! When I was at my parents' house, I literally have to download like anime episodes of 20 minutes that I wanted to watch because the internet bandwidth wasn't enough to like just transmit like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So for some reason, like for work cafes, it was fine. But for example, if I in the apartment when we were like when I just moved in like to Santiago, in the apartment we have like the cheatiest internet connection, and somehow I had like a ping of over 1,000 League of Legends. So it was like the character was pretty much teleporting everywhere. But now we have like decent internet and like holy crap that the router pretty much flies to outer space
Yeah.
and back.
Well, and that's something when I remember when I played Team Fortress Classic, I used to play Sniper a lot. And one of the things I had to do was basically compensate for my lag. So, and I got pretty good at it as well. Like I wasn't brilliant, but I was a decent enough sniper. Like I could hold my own. But I'd always have to like lead my targets and like shoot, a good few centimeters in front of them or in whatever direction they're going. And you'd shoot and then they'd run over and then suddenly they'd die like a few seconds later because that's just the lag catching up while you're on dial-up. And
That's a pretty smart one.
yeah, it was just like a different way of playing because you had to compensate for, lag.
You had to predict where your enemy would go pretty much.
Yeah. But there was a system I just remembered as well that was really cool before voice chat came out where I think Unreal Tournament used it a lot, where basically there was, and I know other games did, I think Tribes used it a lot as well, where you'd have like keyboard shortcuts for commands.
Yeah.
So you'd hit like F1, number 2, and then 3, and it would say, I'm heading that way to that part of the map or whatever. And it wasn't just like taunts and stuff, it was actually useful tactical stuff so that you could coordinate with your team. But obviously you wouldn't have to type it out and you could just hit like a few quick shortcuts to kind of convey a lot of information. And I really like those systems. Those systems were really cool because you could just, throw off a couple of keystrokes and you'd tell everyone exactly what you're doing and where you're going and what's happening and, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was a really cool system that, again, got kind of taken over by voice chat. Yeah.
True, but we still have like ping and stuff like that. Or like quick pings, like the danger, the question mark, or like the treasure or good stuff.
Yeah. And I think it shows that it's still a useful thing to have. So that, still exists. Yeah, there's a lot more than just voice chat, though, that has changed over times.
So, like when you were trapped in a game, and sometimes you had to wait for a magazine to have the tips that you want for that specific game. Though I know that in the United States, I don't know if it was the case for other countries, they had the Nintendo helpline in a way where you could people were literally paid to answer game related questions, and that was awesome. Like,
Yeah. I don't think we had it here. Like, I want to say we didn't, but I could be wrong. So maybe someone could correct me. But yeah, basically you'd call up and it was like before the internet. It was like a bit of the internet, really. Like you'd call up and say, I'm stuck in this part of the game, and they'd give you a hint of how to get past it or whatever, or how to solve that puzzle or beat that boss. Or yeah, that's such a weird concept now, isn't it?
True, though, funnily enough, my nephew kind of like got that experience because when he was like very, very young and he was just starting to get into Breath of the Wild, he would often ask me how to do specific things over the phone. So I had to do my best to describe it. Or like sometimes I would have to like send a screenshot of the thing to better explain what I was trying to convey because, oh, that's the other thing. So nowadays we get games localized in different languages. So, for example, I play Breath of the Wild in English, but my nephew plays in Spanish. So the names for certain locations are different. So that's why I had to
of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I had to send screenshots of some locations because I didn't know the name in Spanish. But that is also a good thing, having games in different languages, because one of the reasons that I had to learn English, it's because the games that I wanted to play weren't in Spanish.
Yep. That makes sense.
It's a good thing and a bad thing. You have the carrot on a stick waiting for you to learn English. But also, holy crap.
Well, and I think that comes into another thing, which is the existence of patches and DLC and all that kind of online stuff these days that obviously didn't exist back in the day. But, if a game got popular somewhere where it wasn't an English-speaking country, these days, you could localize it after the fact if you wanted to, and you could have someone go through and translate it and localize everything and then release a patch that then supports it so that those people have access to that kind of stuff. But back in the day, you'd never get, localization expansion packs or anything. It would just be this is the game you get for better or worse, and that's that. Enjoy. And
also, before I guess Nintendo Latam, kind of okay, so we big stores don't necessarily buy directly from Nintendo, from what I gather. They have intermediary, a third body that buys the game from Nintendo and sells to Latam.
Right.
Or that's what I gather, because I have no idea how that works. So before those times, and before we got global releases and stuff like that, we have to wait for games to get to our country to be able to play them. Or just to be able to see them out in the wild. I do remember when I was maybe on high school, that we did get proper release dates for games, or for the big games at the very least. For example, for Ochame games, when we still got those on store, since it was a niche kind of genre and we didn't get them directly from Nintendo, but the stores kind of bought themselves either on Amazon, or I don't know who they bought the games from. But at that point, I ended up starting importing my own, because Amazon brought the game faster than the actual store did.
Yeah. Well, I think it also goes into at least when I was younger, which was before any of that kind of stuff. When home consoles were a thing, you definitely got a lot of games, but you didn't get anywhere near as many games as you do these days. And there's little indie games was not really a thing.
Yeah.
You only got the games that Nintendo decided to publish and put in the store, or the games that everyone else decided to publish and put in the store. Big companies had the monopoly on all that stuff. So there was no just weird little games that there are these days, and there was no definitely no online stores or anything to buy single developer games or small team games or that kind of thing. It was all pretty much big developers, big publishers, and that's that. Kind of like other things that happened before the internet, where the same thing happened in the music industry and other things like that as well. The internet coming along and just being a very easy distribution platform kind of changed a whole lot of stuff for not just how you get games, but the kinds of games you could get. Because I remember when I was a kid going into department stores or game stores to try and find new games or new PC games and that sort of thing, and big box games on the shelf.
Yeah.
And you basically had a shelf of maybe 20 games to choose from, and that's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
At any given time, and they're mostly the newest, biggest games kind of thing. So that was fine. We still managed to find enough games to play, but the selection was a lot smaller, and the variety was a lot smaller as well. So these days, I think it's a that's where I love the internet and I love digital distribution because of those sorts of things. Like, I love the fact that itch exists and anyone can just make a game and throw it online and people can have access to it. And, you know, if anyone has an idea for something, they've got the capability of making it themselves and reaching an audience. And then as gamers, we've got the option of, looking for thousands upon thousands of different types of games all the time that we can have access to. And we're not just limited to, you know, whatever's on the shelf at our local shop kind of thing.
True. And also the fact that we have digital distribution now, it allows games to be made that would never otherwise be made. Smaller studios can make games without having to pay a lot for like the actual distribution of the game. Because making a physical game nowadays is expensive as fuck. So only like the games that are like, or the indie games that are like super popular get the physical releases, or like specific games that get like limited run games that are like more expensive but has like a lot of goodies. But yeah, indie games.
But even those games like these days have to prove themselves before they get that release.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of indie games get released digitally and then they're popular and then they might spend the money on a physical release, which is completely the opposite to how it used to be, where, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, the selection was just, I hate to think of, I can picture in my mind, like, going to my local game store and just how limited the selection was. Like, it seemed great at the time because you'd have a whole shelf full of games that you could choose from, and that seemed like a lot. But these days I'm like, I just played like 30 demos during Steam Next Fest just to see if I like those games. And they're just random anything games. Like, there's hundreds and thousands more that I could try.
That's the other thing, demos. That's the thing that wasn't like as like popular, I guess, back then. Or like most games that
not on consoles, that's
not
for
on
sure.
Console. Yeah, but for example,
very much on PC though.
Yeah, I guess. For example, like, I know that there's like a Wind Waker demo somewhere that I think was released with a Nintendo magazine. I don't remember, but sometimes the way to get demos would be like buying a specific magazine and getting the demo disc from there. Or when the digital distribution was in the very early stages, we started getting demos like for 3DS, for example, for Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Right. Well, because for PC, I know demos have been a thing for a long time because I used to always buy PC magazines and you get like a CD-ROM with like 20 game demos on it or something, just of the latest stuff that they decided to put on there. But also shareware was a thing, which might be a foreign concept to a lot of people these days, and you're looking at me funny, so I'm feeling like shareware is not really a thing you're aware of. But so shareware was a thing that was basically a demo thing where, for example, the first episode of Doom, which has multiple episodes in it, the first episode was in the shareware version of Doom, which basically was a free, you could easily copy it and share it with other people, because you'd have literal floppy disks with the game on it and you'd copy them and give it to your friend kind of thing. So that's why it's called like shareware. But that was all legal and above board, and that it was made for that purpose. So it's not quite a demo because it's not like a tiny little piece. It would normally be like the first chapter or episode of a game would be the shareware version, and then it would just end. And if you wanted the full version, you have to go and buy the full game. But that version you could copy and distribute yourself amongst your friends and everything, and just like, you know, copy things onto other floppy disks and just give them out and, you know, share it. And I remember lots of games.
Very hard thing to go about it.
Yeah, and well, because it helped people again find new games and all that kind of stuff. There was, in fact, I think in like, especially in the early 90s or mid 90s, there was definitely almost every game had a shareware version that you could play. And, you know, this is before anything was downloaded or anything. You'd have to go to a game store and like pick up a disc, like a floppy disk, and take it home and actually play it kind of thing. Or copy it from a friend who already had it and you go around to their place with a bunch of blank discs and, copy them on their PC and bring it home to your house and then pop it in and play it yourself. And I think Wolfenstein as well, like Wolfenstein 3D, I think the first chapter of that was the shareware version. I remember having a shareware version of a game called Descent, which is a fabulous game if anyone hasn't played it. It's a 6 Degrees of Freedom kind of sci-fi shooter game, but amazing. And yeah, I had shareware versions of pretty much every game back in the day because that's what you did on PC anyway. I imagine it would be different on consoles, but yeah.
Yeah,
That definitely doesn't exist anymore.
Speaking of consoles, Nintendo in particular wasn't easily distributable via other means at that point in time. At the very least, in a way that you could just play it on the console. But my boyfriend always tells me, because he was a PlayStation guy when he was growing up, that he had I don't remember if it was the PS1 or the PS2, but one of them, one of those, got brought to a shady store to jailbreak it.
Yep.
Literally, the guy looked at it, took a hammer, smashed the thing, and give it back, and it was like, okay, it is jailbroken, and it would just run any CD. So one thing that happened here is that we had those flea market kind of things.
Yep.
So a lot of people would just make copies of the games and sell it for a couple of bucks. Or even my boyfriend at some point bought Mario 64 for quote unquote PC, and it was a disc that came with the emulator and the game. So he got the idea to do that himself and starts distributing those on his class and selling them.
Cool.
Which I wouldn't tell people to do now, but it wasn't.
I mean, Nintendo are very litigious, so
yeah,
they'll come after you.
But it was a thing that used to happen a lot, especially since in the early days of gaming, games were super expensive here. It kind of went down for a while, the price of gaming, when I guess when Steam jumped into the bandwagon, and also it became easier to send stuff here. But still, since the dollar has skyrocketed here, we are back to the days of high gaming prices. God damn it.
Well, I think with that as well, that's kind of interestingly, my early experience with game piracy was borrowing games from the video store, because you'd be able to rent them at a lot of video stores. They'd have video games as well.
Yeah, Blockbuster too.
Yeah. And so a friend and I would go halves and go every week. We'd rent I think you could get 5 games for $5 or something. And so we went halves and we'd go and borrow 5 games. Then we'd go home and basically just pirate them and then return them. And, we'd have 5 new games to play. So
thanks. And in our case, I think we at some point rented Nintendo 64 games. I don't remember. I was too little. But the thing is that you have a week to beat those.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do have a cousin, which at that time was closer to us in a way. So we got him to lend us games like Super Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart for the Nintendo 64. And we played the hell out of those because it was way too fun. And holy crap, now that I think about it, game controllers have gotten so ergonomic and so good lately.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Because there were some wacky ones.
Yeah. But I grew up with a Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
That controller, how the hell do you hold it? I know you have the option to play 2D or 3D games because it has 3 handles.
Yeah.
Which it's still the weirdest thing I ever seen, but somehow, since I've always played Nintendo 64 that way, it feels right, even though it shouldn't.
So that's the thing, because I because I'm not familiar with Nintendo since like Super Nintendo. All Nintendo controllers seem weird as hell to me because
I
they're
mean,
so
the
different
GameCube one
to
is.
everyone
Yeah.
else.
I mean, the GameCube one, I didn't get one of those because I didn't get a GameCube. But at the very least, it had two handles.
Yeah, it was a bit more quote unquote normal, I suppose. But
Yeah. But the Wii U gamepad, like not the actual like gamepad, like the Pro controller was a fucking godsend because holy crap. After years of weird controllers, we get a
yeah,
normal
that's true.
one. I know we have the Switch, which weirdly enough, it's kind of like the it gives me the feeling of like a handheld controller. Like it reminds me, like
Yeah.
besides like the joysticks, which aren't flat as in the 3DS, it kind of remembers me like it blah blah blah. It reminds me of the feel like the 3DS has. So and since my hands are small, like they're like very comfy to me. But yeah, like the Xbox controller is just like a fucking godsend. It's the best way to play games on PC if you don't require to be. It doesn't require to you. Sorry, it doesn't require you to aim. In which case the mouse and keyboard setting is better.
Well, speaking of controllers, that's another thing that's changed quite a bit, even on PC, because when I was a kid playing games, it was all keyboard based.
Yeah.
100%. Like, you wouldn't even use your mouse as well. Like, it wasn't even WASD. Like, that's a newer thing too. It would be like arrow keys to move around, and like you'd have control and alt maybe to like fire or whatever. Space was usually like a jump or something. And then other games that got complex would maybe use the numpad for like directional controls or something because you've got more of them. But yeah, most games when I was growing up playing, you just 100% use the keyboard and nothing else.
Oh.
And that's how they were designed and how they were made. Because even mouse look and everything didn't come in till a bit later. Like Quake kind of brought it in, I think, and some other games around that kind of era. But you know, even original Doom didn't have mouse look. It was just arrow keys, and you couldn't even look up and down. You just kind of, if something was above you, you just kind of shot towards it, and it would automatically shoot up at the enemy, but you didn't actually aim. So
that makes sense. I have to say, like, and this one goes to another one of the points that we have written down. I do I kind of remember a weird controller that my sister used for Flight Simulator. But the other thing that I do remember more about Flight Simulator, because that's the one thing my sisters talk about, is the manual.
Yeah.
So, according to what they say, I have no idea which Flight Simulator they played, but the game came with a manual, like an actual how to fly a plane manual. Since, well, tutorials weren't like very integrated in games yet, I guess. But in order for you to actually fly a plane in Flight Simulator, you have to read the manual, which only my oldest sister managed to do because my other sister, and my brother look at that and said, "Well, fuck it, I'm not reading that." But my oldest sister read through the entire manual and was the only one capable of playing that game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, and I think you mentioned like tutorials not being as good and whatever, but in my opinion, like tutorials only came in because manuals kind of went out.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, you know, back in the day, everything would be in the manual because it would tell you the backstory for the story as well.
Yeah.
It would you'd have like details on every character that you're going to play, like all the main characters. They'd have like a page with their biography and stuff. There'd be actual instructions, as in, you know, the keys to press or the buttons to press or like how to play things. There'd even be like hints and stuff as well, like if you needed them, or like profiles of enemies that you fight and things. And yeah, it sounds like kind of wacky, but it was all that stuff that they put into tutorials now, or like a lot of games have I can't really think of what to call it, but like almost like encyclopedias. So like as you fight enemies, it'll give you data entries that you can go and read.
Everything
like,
was in the manual back then.
but yeah, that was all just in the booklet. So
Yeah, so for example, I don't remember ever holding like an N64 manual because come on. First of all, the N64 like box where the game came in was cardboard, so
yeah.
disposable. And wherever the manuals are, only my siblings knew at the time, and I don't think they know anymore. So only God knows where those went. um, that I did manage to get. Let me actually open the drawer because I just remember I have this. Where the fuck is it? Oh, trust me. I got like the copy of a Japanese copy of Pokemon Red for the Game Boy, and that has a very nice manual explaining you like what is expected from you in the game.
Yeah.
Even though I can't exactly read it because it is in Japanese. But no, like manuals or like extra stuff. It's kind of like a limited edition kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for example, the Liar Princess and the Blind Prince has like a very cute, very very precious kind of like picture book where it tells you like the story of the game before you play it, and it gives it like the endings kind of like up in the air, so you actually have to play the game to find out. Or the Japanese version of the Cruel King and the Great Hero has a little booklet with art of the characters and also what their thing is. So yeah, that's a sad thing. Like game manuals, kind of like I don't know if they went out because they started including the instructions in the game, or because maybe they said like, hey, we can actually like make it more accessible, so people will actually like read the instructions now.
Well, I think like I've just pulled out because I know I had it near me the manual for a game called Under a Killing Moon.
Oh, it looks sick. I love the art of that.
Which is from, I think, about 1996 or something, if I recall correctly, because I used to have this on disc, but I can't find the discs anymore, but I do have the manual still. 1994. There we go.
How do you have the manual but not the disc? Oh, because you didn't have like the full box thing with the manual and the disc? Like,
I
you
did at
didn't
some
get that?
point, but for some reason I got rid of the CD-ROMs, and
Oh,
I have the Steam version now of the games, so I don't really care about the CD-ROMs. But something like the manual I've hung on to because, I've got some other old manuals around as well elsewhere, but I couldn't basically replace this, so I've kind of hung on to it a bit. Like I've still got maps on my wall for like GTA 1 and Ultimate Online and other old games which came with maps. But I'm just flicking through the manual for Under a Killing Moon, which is quite a revolutionary game at the time. It's got FMV actors in a 3D rendered world, and it's like a detective mystery kind of game. And the first page, there's a whole contents of like 50 odd pages or something in the manual. And the first page is basically Introduction to Under a Killing Moon. And it's like, what is the setting for Under a Killing Moon? Who is Tex Murphy, who's the lead character? And it tells you all this stuff. And like, where do I live and who do I know? And it introduces you to the other characters in the game, which are there. I'm showing Paula on the screen as much as I can. But then most of it, as I flick through, is all kind of technical stuff, like how to configure the graphics settings and how to install it on PC properly and choose different audio drivers and all this kind of stuff. Because that as well, especially obviously on PC, back in the day was much more fiddly than it is these days. Because these days most stuff works kind of out of the box with default settings, I think.
yeah.
Whereas back in the day, you kind of had to know what settings worked before you played the game.
Right.
Especially between things like, do you have a Direct 3D graphics card or an OpenGL graphics card? When 3D graphics cards came in, which again was a newer thing at the time. But if you selected the wrong one, the game just wouldn't run, it would crash. So
Beautiful.
or if you had like a Sound Blaster 16-bit audio driver or audio card, but you selected something else, it would make it crash as well because, well, that doesn't work because that's not the right one. And, just things like that where, like in this, it's got telling you how to select, the right screen resolution. And this game goes up to the high def resolution of 640 by 480, which it has in brackets next to it full screen because that's the biggest resolution you're going to get. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting looking at that kind of stuff because obviously, everything gets bigger and better over time, but it just shows how much things these days kind of do just kind of work out the box, even though you might later tweak some settings and that sort of stuff to get it working better. But pretty much everything will run on everything these days. As long as you meet the minimum, it doesn't matter what configuration you've got, which I think is, round of applause for game developers because I definitely do remember it being way more technical and way more fiddly. And yeah, you had to kind of know a bit about computers just to get a game running on a PC back in the day. So
Yeah.
It's nice that it's more accessible these days.
Another thing that I just remember is that some game manuals have like extra blank pages at the end of them.
Yeah.
Because you could take notes about the game or like write down cheat codes about the game. That's another thing, cheat codes. We don't see those anymore. Yeah. That's sad.
I miss cheat codes, yeah. Just because some of them are really fun and silly. And
yeah.
I think it feels like, to me anyway, it feels like these days there's more of a focus from game developers to not let you play their game in a way that they don't want you to play it.
True.
Whereas, and maybe because of the internet and because everything becomes really accessible, like if there are cheat codes, you're going to find out day one that it's released. Whereas a lot of cheat codes came from, at least my understanding, is when developers were making a game, say the developers are making Doom. So to make it easy on themselves while they're testing things, they'd put in God mode. So they'd, be able to type in, I can't remember what it was, but I think it's IDDQD was God mode. Or you could do like IDKFA gave you all the weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
So, or even like, there was a good one. I think it was IDSPI SPOPD was no clip. So I remember these because I used them a lot. But so all these codes were left in the game because how are you going to find out about them anyway? Someone figures them out and then it's just word of mouth and everything that kind of shares them around, or magazines or something. Whereas these days, things get data mined and found out really quickly.
Absolutely.
And then put on the internet.
So, for example, I used to play Warcraft 3, and when I was just learning how to play, or like learning like how to move around in the map, one of the cheats was I see the people, and that allows you to see the map without any restrictions. Like the fog of war goes away. The other thing that I remember using was Motherload on The Sims.
Yeah,
and that
money.
gives you a lot of money, which sometimes you just want to build stuff. You don't want to play dollhouse with your Sims. Sometimes it's fun to just cause mayhem, but sometimes you just want to chill and build a pretty house.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think like I kind of wish developers these days weren't so precious about people fucking with their game, basically. Because like, especially in single player, like if I want to do weird shit and cheat and just have a fun time in single player, who cares? Like even silly stuff. Like there was a cheat in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which I think was just something like bubble cars, and basically every time you hit a car, it just floated away into the sky. And I always played it with that cheat on because that was the best cheat ever. Because it was just absolutely stupid, but whenever you hit a car, it just kind of floated away. And it was just such a weird thing that I always loved playing with it because it made me laugh every time. But yeah, I mean, who cares if you play a single player game with God mode or you give yourself heaps of money in The Sims? Like,
who cares?
Yeah, if it's fun, you should be able to do it, in my opinion.
Definitely. What else do we have here? Oh, this is a big one. When the rechargeable stuff came into the picture, because back in my day, I had to use AA's for controllers, and also I for specific things like you know, handhelds. For the original Game Boy, you have to use like stupid amount of double A's, and
Yep.
those got trained pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I kind of feel like developers can put more stuff on their controller, like Rumble and shit.
Yeah.
Like on the wireless ones, because like for example, a Nintendo 64 had the Rumble pack, so you could just connect your controller to the console and use Rumble. But for example, like the all controllers, I think, had Rumble. PS5 has haptic feedback, and the only reason they can do that with a wireless controller is because of rechargeable batteries. Because holy crap, in this economy, who's buying so many batteries?
Well, even then, as someone who plays my PS5 quite a bit with all the haptic feedback on, because it's actually pretty cool, boy, it drains the battery really, really quick.
Yeah,
like
like
it's
no joke.
those. I really like the PS5 controllers, but they like I've got two purely because I've got one charging all the time, and then when the one I'm using dies, I swap over to the one that's been charging and put this one on charging. So because they just run down that quickly that within one gaming session I might run through an entire charge on my controller, depending on how much haptics have been going on.
True, though I have to say, like, even though like the Switch like main body kind of like has a very bad battery life for being a handheld, the Joy-Cons, these bastards, you could be playing all day and they still have some juice in them. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
I think it's because like I've opened this up like to switch like the joystick, because at some point I got drifting. But the controller is like half of it is battery and half of it is
makes
internals.
Well, because it's quite a simple circuit board, I think, like just for buttons and joysticks and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you could probably fit a whole battery into the rest of the body.
Yeah, and it is a very good battery. Like I haven't like one of my Joy-Con has like I don't know, like the battery kind of like bulked up or something. Like it kind of like inflated itself. So I have to change
that's
that.
dangerous.
Yeah, that's dangerous. But these other Joy-Cons that I had for a couple of years now are like just haven't had like any trouble yet. Yeah, batteries. They're kind of like a given that you're able to recharge your controller right now. Like, holy crap, my nephew like always leaves out like his Switch like with the screen turned on and the battery drains, and then he goes to play and the battery is dying. So my sister's wallet is so much happier that she doesn't have to buy batteries for her forgetful son.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because even I remember a time before like rechargeable AA batteries was really a thing. Like you literally just, and more from like having a Walkman and then a Discman and, you know, more like portable music players.
Yeah.
They're the things that I put most of my batteries into. But I remember there was a period, for a long time, especially in primary school, before I could either afford or they were readily available like rechargeable batteries just in general. So you'd have to just buy one-use batteries constantly.
Yeah.
And, you know, these days, I mean, who buys batteries these days? Like, nobody.
Speaking of batteries, I guess you didn't have this problem because you didn't grow up with a Nintendo console. But cartridges of Nintendo games have batteries to save the game.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced anything funky with my Nintendo 64 cartridges, but the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance ones ran out of batteries. So if you had a very old save file on that Game Boy cartridge for whatever game, you may want to check on it because it may be gone. Or for example,
Interesting.
like they did it a little bit better with the Game Boy Advance ones, because not all. I think they use a different chip for some. So, for example, for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, since they have like a day and night cycle, they don't use the battery for saving. They use a battery for the internal clock.
Okay.
So the clock keeps on running even though the game is off. Nowadays, like the console is connected to the internet, or like the device itself has a clock, so the game just has to compare the clock to the info it has saved to know how much time has passed. But before that was a thing, there was no way. And also memory cards. Holy crap, memory.
Yeah. Well, PlayStations are great for that because if you ever wanted to actually save anything, you had to put an extra card in to have somewhere to save it.
Yeah.
And even then it was limited. So you'd only save maybe 10 different games before you ran out of space. And you'd have to get another memory card or just delete stuff.
True, like my boyfriend told me that he didn't know like he needed a memory card, so he pretty much hello. Was it the PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2? One. Okay, the first one that you guys have memory card and didn't know he was able to save with a memory card. So he pretty much speedrun the game like each time he started playing or left the console on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's where another thing, like, and this kind of goes back to arcades because I wanted to mention arcades for a little bit, just because I think game design changed a lot when things moved out of arcades and into home consoles or home computers, just in general, because obviously arcades are there to, get money out of you. But there's some things that did carry over, especially into like Commodore 64 era and early 90s kind of era of games, which relates to this kind of stuff where things like level codes was a thing, where I remember a particular game called The Lost Vikings, which was popular in the 90s. Basically, when you beat a level, you got given a code, which was maybe a 5-digit string of letters or numbers, and you'd write it down because there were no save games.
Yeah.
So you turn off your game and then you come back next time and you type in the code for that level and you'd start that level.
Yeah.
And so it had nothing to do with anything you've done previously. It's just if you've made it to that point, you would unlock the code and you'd know what the code was. So then you could type it in next time. And that was the save system, basically. And
For games that track your inventory, you had like more complex codes. Like I remember seeing ones for Mega Man and for Zelda. So the first Zelda, the codes are kind of long, but I think the Mega Man ones were kind of longer. I don't know. I couldn't tell because I only played them on virtual consoles, so I have save states which are a godsend. But yeah, if you have a game with a lot of collectibles and stuff like that, the codes has to tell the game which collectible you have and the amount of it. So
yeah, it's like if it was a save file, it would just be that string of characters anyway.
Yeah,
that you've just written down and you're manually typing in. So
pretty much,
and yeah, that's something that I haven't seen for a very long time, but that's probably a good thing.
That is absolutely a beautiful thing. We figure out saving in games.
Yeah.
And saving without an external memory device. So we don't need to go back there at all.
But I think it might be good to, I guess, kind of wrap this up with some of the cool things about gaming these days that perhaps is different from when we were younger. And, stuff that if I was a kid these days, I'd be like, man, that's such a cool thing. Kind of like where, on my PlayStation at the moment, I never think about saving games because I save games, but I don't think about space or anything like that or memory cards or anything.
Yeah.
And it just uploads it all to the cloud anyway. So there's like gigs worth of data that I've uploaded of my save games and stuff that's just tied to my account because it's online and, there's cloud saving and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. Yeah. I really like that.
Your game's being tied to your account, the digital ones at least. That's a very good thing. Like,
and it's so easy.
Yeah. If your PS5 goes up and crooks, and you get another PS5, you have all your progress and all your games there because the power of the cloud.
Easy peasy.
Back in our day, we have Flash games. We have to go to browsers and go to Flash games website like Newgrounds. But nowadays, You got like free games even on mobile or even in consoles and PC. And you don't have to go to any fishy websites. You can just directly download it from your favorite storefront.
Even on Netflix.
Yeah, even on Netflix in some cases, or Amazon. Well, we are also more informed on what happens with a game on its development cycle. Except Metroid Prime 4 or Silk Song, we are looking at you. But for example, if you get for certain releases like regular information about the game or what the game is about because marketing. And if the game has to be like pushed back, looking at you Breath of the Wild multiple times, very looking at you Breath of the Wild, you get informed of those changes. Like unless it is like some game like what was the name of the game where they took like the Assassin's Creed Black Flag formula?
Skull and Bones.
Yeah, Skull and Bones kind of flopped in a way. And we didn't even know like if it was going to release or not at some point, but it got released for better or for worse. Hey, if you have a problem with your game on Steam, and if you played it like under 2 hours or within a time frame from when you bought it, you can refund it, and that's a good thing.
I would also add to that regardless of whether, because this is a little pet peeve of mine, but regardless of whether a platform says that they'll refund it or not, always look at your local consumer laws, because especially in Australia, we have very tight consumer laws about what can be refunded, and a lot of things can that companies claim can't be. And I, in particular, have had arguments with Sony on a number of occasions about games that don't work and me asking for a refund. And it's taken a lot of arguing and everything, but I've got a refund every time because that's the law. So eventually they come to the party and say, all right, we'll give you a refund. And I'm like, good, because you should.
That's pretty
Despite
nice.
anything they try and tell you, anything you've agreed to.
Whatever regardless of what the terms of services say.
Yeah.
The law
because Sony's thing is like, if you've downloaded it and played it, like fired it up, that's it, no refund. And I'm like, but I can't tell if it's busted until I've played it, so that's kind of stupid.
But on the other hand, if some kid got their parents' credit card and bought like a lot of games, and they haven't opened them, they can refund them.
Yeah, but that's where, that's every country has different laws, so I don't mean to speak for anyone else, but I know in Australia there's very, we have a very, our system is very much in favour of people getting refunds as opposed to not. So it might be easier than you think.
Yeah.
If you're Australian at least, but maybe elsewhere too.
True. Also, if you're trapped on any particular part of your game, as long as that game has another person playing it besides you, you're very likely to find a guide on that game.
Or any number of hundreds of YouTube videos or something.
True. So you no longer required to buy a specific guide for a specific game or like a magazine and hope for the best. You're just able to look for things you need on the internet and be happy with that, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like their entire walkthroughs and they're very detailed. Sorry. But for example, for Persona Golden, there is a very detailed walkthrough of what you have to do on each day to max out everything on your first run. Yeah. It is crazy.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And there are entire wikis dedicated to particular games. The Terraria wiki is a godsend.
Yeah, that's as long as I don't have to look up a wiki, I don't mind having wikis.
Yeah.
Like I hate games where you kind of have to look it up if you want to even do anything. But that's a different thing altogether.
True.
One thing that I think is a bit of a double-edged sword, because as soon as I say it, you'll know why it's bad, but I'm also going to talk about why it's good, is microtransactions.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things. Not so much loot boxes, because I think they're always bad, but but I think microtransactions or like, cosmetic DLC and stuff that you can buy, yes, it's bad. And I don't think I really need to explain to anyone listening to this podcast why it's bad. But it occurred to me why it's good, though, because these days, something that's very different to when I was a kid is just the amount of good quality free games that there are out there to play. Like you say, League of Legends or, other games like, I don't know if Destiny's free to play, but games like that. There are loads of free to play games out there that you can get your hands on. I've seen, kids obviously these days love Roblox and those sorts of things.
And they ask their parents to buy Robux or like whatever the premium currency is.
Yeah. And that's where I think, with a little bit of monitoring by parents and teaching that you don't need to buy all this shit, you can just enjoy the free game.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that's really cool, though, because like when I was a kid, if you wanted to play a game, you had to go buy it, like, or pirate it, basically. But there's, you can immediately get a library of free games these days, just that are good quality. Fortnite you could play for fun. There's so many free games that you could play that are good fun, and your friends can play with you as well because it's all online multiplayer and stuff, a lot of them. So, and you don't even have to spend a dime. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, some games are more free-to-play friendly than others. Like, for example, I used to play Guardian Tales. That is like a dungeon crawling hack and slash kind of game. And it has some puzzle elements too. But that was like, if you wanted a particular character, it was very easy like to save out by doing like daily missions. And even if you didn't get the character in the particular banner, you can still set up like a currency that they give you like for each pull that you do. Buy it directly. Like, you don't have to spend a fortune of the game to get like all the gear and characters that you want.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Genshin Impact is still like kind of like friendly-ish in a way that you can still like get like one pull daily if you so wish. And it has like a pity system where after a certain amount of pulls, you get like a soft pity where it ups your percentage of it. But at, I think was pull 100, you get a guaranteed 5 stars. And if you're on a banner, like an event banner, where you get like a window of time that is like 2 weeks, I don't remember, to pull in a specific character, you are able to, like, okay, this is not like a complete guarantee. Like, for example, if you have like 2 characters that you can get like as your 5-star in that banner, and you don't get it like on the first one, like on the first try, the next time is guaranteed because it is like a 50-50 chance or something like that.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. But then you have like the new Otome game that is Love and Deep Space, I think, which I haven't played because they say it's not free to play friendly at all.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'll be the first guy to tell you that microtransactions and loot boxes suck and I hate them and don't spend your money on them. But that's where I think if I was a parent looking at what my kids are playing and stuff, I would encourage them to play free games and that sort of stuff with their friends and everything. But I'd try and encourage them also not to spend any money on it and just enjoy it for what you get for free. And if it's a bit shit, that's fine because it's free anyway. And, you don't need every season's cosmetics on Fortnite, or you don't need this fancy costume or any of that kind of stuff. You can still enjoy it just without spending any money.
Yeah. And, in particular, I really like the system that League of Legends had, even though the game is toxic as fuck. But you can get like the skin, like a character skin, like for example, for the one that you main or like play with the most, for relatively cheap compared to other games that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. Like at the same time, if it's that's what I mean by it being a double-edged sword. Like, it can be so shit, and often it is. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to, buying little bits of DLC or cosmetic stuff if I feel like the game has earned it in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, you get something cool for supporting the developers. As long as it's not a loot box, I'm okay with it.
And that's what I hate loot boxes. Like, I don't want a chance to get something, especially if I'm paying money.
Yeah, I want the thing, like...
Yeah, if I want to pay for it, I want it. But yeah, and I think on top of that, like, you know, just general, the whole digital distribution model, I think, is like one of the biggest things that kind of has changed gaming a lot because of, you know, you can have patches that come out years after a game's been finished and fixes a little bug that came up somewhere. Maybe, you know, you can have DLC come out and extend the life of a game, or you can have a remaster kind of texture pack come out 20 years later and update it.
Or you can have fun mods where games that were never localized get a fun translation, or just fun stuff for your 20th run of Skyrim on PC, because you can also get mods for that.
Yeah, mods are a big part of that too, like community-driven stuff as well, like that's obviously supported in games. And yeah, everyone should play Skyrim with Thomas the Tank Engine at some point in their life. Because it's the best thing ever. It's still the best mod I've ever seen, so, you know.
Oh my God. So,
yeah. Any final thoughts on that sort of thing, Paula?
So yeah, like gaming has come a long way. It's more accessible than ever. It has more quirks than ever, but I feel like we come to a point where if you want to play a very specific kind of game, there's probably a game for you, or you can make it yourself in RPG Maker for all I care. But yeah. One thing that I kind of miss is local multiplayer. That's still a thing in some games. I do not miss when people used to screen cheat, though. But screen cheating was fun, though.
And that's part of it as well, isn't it? Like, it might seem weird these days because it's, you know, not something that gets done very often, but I used to play like split screen Call of Duty and stuff with friends and that sort of thing. And yeah, that's just part of the game, is looking at trying to figure out where each other is and everything.
Yeah. So yeah, even though I miss some things of the old days, some are gone for the better, some are gone maybe for the worse. I miss game manuals. That's the one thing that I miss. But yeah, the wheel keeps on churning, and I ain't stopping for anyone. So gaming is just different these days.
Well, and I think like for kids growing up these days, it's better as well. I would say, as in, yeah, there's some stuff that perhaps we are nostalgic about or whatever, but even game manuals, like, yeah, I like game manuals, but you've got the entire internet these days, so
yeah,
that information is still available to you, if not more. So, you know, I think if you're a new generation of gamers these days, you're kind of in the best position we've ever been in, because you've got access to everything. There's really cheap stuff around. There's free stuff that's like good quality. And yeah, it's a good time to be a gamer, I suppose.
So yeah. Anything else?
That's what I think.
Okay.
Nope. How about we finish this up with a guessing game and see if I can actually guess something this week.
Okay, I think I got an easier one today. So let me see for the completion. Hold on, I need to stupid. Give me a second. Okay, so we have a game here. The main story is, it says it is about 13 hours.
Okay.
It says acquire the final license.
License? Ooh. The Burnout Paradise?
Yeah. That's the one. I knew it was gonna be spoilery, yeah.
Yeah, licenses. Yep. I'm surprised as well. I kind of guessed that just as a throwaway, like, oh, couldn't be that, surely.
Yeah, but I do remember you playing like a lot of racing games, so I didn't know if many of them had that license going on.
Yeah, a lot of them don't really. Oh, I guess a lot of them do, but yeah, Burnout Paradise in particular does. And that is one game I platinumed as well when it was on PlayStation 3. So
Oh crap.
I played the shit out of that game.
Actually, let me check on your.
I think it was PS3.
Yeah, it was a PS3 game. Fuck, I closed the thing. Users. There you go.
That is perhaps even my most proud platinum as well, because there are trophies in there which are multiplayer trophies, and I tend not to go for multiplayer trophies at all. Whereas that one, I did them. And they were trophies like win a round of X multiplayer game type. And I actually managed to do it because I played a lot of that game. So
yeah. For that particular one, you didn't put any time.
No.
I guess it was before a how long to beat thing.
Yeah, I think I 100%ed it before I even thought about tracking my times or anything. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, I did not have a time for that one, but
it would have been nice. Wait, you've been 12 years in this site? I just realized.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
I think I joined up within like the first year of How Long to Beat existing.
Yeah, but you have the
founders. I will say that I didn't necessarily I used the site, but I didn't necessarily like partake in the forums and stuff in the community until a few years later.
Yeah.
So I haven't been around, so to speak, as long as some other people. So
True.
Even if my account is old. So I have a tendency to do that in general, just in lots of things. Like a new thing comes out, so I sign up and make an account, and then I don't necessarily use it straight away. I remember I did the same thing with Facebook. Like Facebook came out when it was brand new, and I made an account, and then like years later, I was like, I might try this Facebook thing. And sure enough, I already had an account, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Like I had to make a Twitter account for some reason and then never touch it until like very recently.
Yeah. That's right. Nobody needs Twitter.
But I have a Twitter. Where would I rant about to the boys?
True. Well, I am very happily up to, what's that, 5 points?
Yeah.
Against your 7. So still in the game. Hell yeah. And with that, let's call that an episode, I think.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. I think this is a long one.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any old time of the old gaming memories over there? Please tell
Calling
us.
old gamers.
Calling out all old gamers. So yeah.
You know who you are.
So have a nice week. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Let us know what you think, and see you on the next one.
Bye-bye. Liver fights fuck.